Welcome. This is a product overview of ComplianceForge's PCI DSS v 4.0 policies and standards. ComplianceForge sells this product by self-assessment questionnaire type, so there are 8 versions. Over the next few minutes, we will walk through what the product is, how to tell which SAQ type applies to you, what is included, and how it compares to writing this documentation yourself. The Cybersecurity and Data Protection Program version for PCI DSS v 4.0 contains the necessary cybersecurity policies and standards in an editable Microsoft Word format. In addition to the policies and standards, you get additional documentation that will help you implement it and ensure you stay compliant. It is well documented that the lack of standards and the lack of employee awareness are the leading causes of security breaches, malware infections, and identity theft. This is a straightforward solution: editable Microsoft Word and Excel templates designed to address the compliance needs of the self-assessment questionnaire that applies to you, with immense time and cost savings. If you accept card payments, your acquiring bank expects documented policies and standards that satisfy PCI DSS v 4.0 and an SAQ attestation you can actually back up. Could you produce that documentation today, or would a self-assessment expose gaps? Writing PCI-aligned policies from a blank page is slow and easy to get wrong. This product gives you a running start: editable Microsoft Word and Excel policies and standards, scoped to your SAQ, plus supporting documentation to implement them and stay compliant. It gets you roughly 80 to 90% of the way there. Then you tailor it to your cardholder data environment. If your company needs information security policies and standards to comply with the payment card industry data security standard, ComplianceForge can be of service at a price you can afford. Their professional cybersecurity team developed a comprehensive and affordable set of PCI DSS policies and standards, fully editable in Microsoft Word format, so you can add any customization you want. These templates help alleviate the time constraints and errors associated with trying to generate the documentation yourself. And the product is a fraction of the cost associated with hiring a consultant to write similar documentation for you. So what is a self-assessment questionnaire? SAQs are requirements for smaller merchants and service providers that are not required to submit a report on compliance. They are designed as a self-validation tool to assess security for cardholder data, using a series of yes or no questions for each applicable PCI DSS requirement. There are different questionnaires available to meet different merchant environments, and merchants are required to identify the SAQ that best describes how they accept payment cards. Some organizations may even need to fill out different SAQs based on different methods of accepting payment. For example, SAQ-A for a website and SAQ-C for brick-and-mortar store locations. If you are not sure which questionnaire applies to you, contact your acquiring bank or payment card brand for assistance. ComplianceForge sells its PCI DSS policies and standards based on the SAQ type. Here are all 8, with the payment channels each one applies to. SAQ-A is for card-not-present merchants, e-commerce, or mail and telephone order that have fully outsourced all cardholder data functions to PCI DSS validated third parties, with no electronic storage, processing, or transmission of any cardholder data on the merchant's systems or premises. It is not applicable to face-to-face channels. SAQ-A-EP is for e-commerce merchants who outsource all payment processing to validated third parties and who have a website that does not directly receive cardholder data, but that can impact the security of the payment transaction. It is applicable only to e-commerce channels. SAQ-B is for merchants using only imprint machines with no electronic cardholder data storage and/or standalone dial-out terminals with no electronic cardholder data storage. It is not applicable to e-commerce channels. SAQ-B-IP is for merchants using only standalone, PTS-approved payment terminals with an IP connection to the payment processor with no electronic cardholder data storage. Also not applicable to e-commerce channels. SAQ-C is for merchants with payment application systems connected to the Internet with no electronic cardholder data storage, not applicable to e-commerce channels. SAQ-C-VT is for merchants who manually enter a single transaction at a time via a keyboard into an Internet-based virtual terminal solution that is provided and hosted by a validated third-party service provider. Again, no electronic cardholder data storage. SAQ-D for merchants covers all merchants not included in the descriptions above. And SAQD for service providers covers all service providers defined by a payment card brand as eligible to complete an SAQ. On each product page, you can click the matrix for a downloadable PDF that shows the PCI DSS version 4 controls as they apply to the SAQ levels. The product is an editable Microsoft Word document that gives the merchant the documented policies and standards needed to answer the SAQ questionnaire. Where most cybersecurity documentation describes general security policy, this product is specifically scoped to the PCI DSS version 4.0 requirements that apply to your SAQ type. So the merchant is not paying for content covering requirements that do not apply to its environment. This is not a generic PCI DSS policy set. You are not paying for or maintaining content that does not apply to your self-assessment. Each requirement that applies to the selected SAQ is addressed with a mapped policy and a supporting standard. The documentation is also valuable when merchants are asked by acquiring banks, payment brands, or strategic partners for documented evidence of a PCI DSS-aligned security program. ComplianceForge provides businesses with exactly what they need to protect themselves: professionally written policies, procedures, standards, and guidelines at a very affordable cost. Similar documentation standards can be found in Fortune 500 companies that have dedicated IT security staff, and all of it is backed up by documented best practices. This is a one-time purchase of editable Microsoft Word-based documentation templates. There is no software to install, no agent to deploy, no account to provision, and no cloud environment to configure. If the merchant can open and edit Microsoft Word files, the documentation is ready to use. It is delivered as a fully editable Word file, compatible with Word 2016 and newer, Microsoft 365, OpenOffice, LibreOffice, and Google Docs. The documentation includes built-in styles, mapped sections per PCI DSS requirement, and clearly marked placeholders for customization. Documentation is delivered via email download link within 1 to 2 business days of purchase, often the same business day. There is no installer, no license server, and no activation step. And it is a one-time purchase. A single entity license is included, and there is no recurring subscription requirement, although an optional update subscription is available to stay current as PCI DSS guidance evolves. This deployment model is intentional. PCI DSS documentation belongs in the merchant's own hands, inside the merchant's own document management and assessor evidence workflows, rather than locked inside a vendor's SaaS tool. Once delivered, this product belongs to the buyer. Merchants completing a PCI DSS self-assessment face common challenges that this product is designed to address, with documented, version 4.0 mapped policies and standards scoped to their SAQ. The first is a lack of in-house security experience. Writing security documentation is a skill that many good cybersecurity professionals are simply not proficient at and avoid at all cost. Tasking your security analysts and engineers to write comprehensive documentation means you are actively taking them away from protecting and defending your network. The second is compliance requirements. PCI DSS is a requirement for most companies, regardless of industry, and this product is designed with compliance in mind since it focuses on PCI DSS requirements. The third is audit failures. Security documentation does not age gracefully, like a fine wine. Outdated documentation leads to gaps that expose organizations to audit failures and system compromises. And the fourth is vendor requirements. It is very common for clients and partners to request evidence of a security program, and that includes policies and standards. This product provides that evidence, covering the cardholder data environment. The product addresses each challenge with documented, version 4.0 mapped content. It is designed to give the merchant a defensible policy set in days rather than months. The first is clear documentation. It provides the comprehensive documentation to prove that your PCI DSS security program exists. That equates to a time saving of hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars in staff and consultant expenses. The second is time savings. It provides a semi-customized solution that requires minimal resources to fine-tune for your organization's specific needs. And the third is alignment with leading practices. The policies and standards are directly mapped to version 4.0 of the PCI DSS. So what do you actually receive? There is 1 edition per SAQ type, 8 in total, and the price follows the scope of the questionnaire. SAQA and SAQA-EP are $1,155. SAQB and B-IP are $1,325. SAQC and C-VT are $1,625. And both SAQD editions, merchant and service provider, are $1,870. Every edition includes complete coverage of all PCI DSS version 4.0 requirements specific to your SAQA Certification of Information Security Awareness Training Form, a customizable incident response plan, a business impact assessment template, business continuity and disaster recovery templates. It also includes a service provider indemnification and non-disclosure agreement template, a user acknowledgement form, a change management request form, a risk assessment methodology template, and appointment orders for an information security officer. In total, that is over 40 pages of policies, standards, and guidelines, providing comprehensive coverage, plus over 60 pages of supplemental documentation that saves hundreds of hours by not having to make it on your own. Just as Human Resources publishes an employee handbook to let employees know what is expected of them from an HR perspective, the PCI DSS Cybersecurity Policies and Standards does this from a cybersecurity perspective. Now compare that against the 2 alternatives for obtaining quality cybersecurity documentation. Compared to hiring a consultant, you can save weeks of wait time and tens of thousands of dollars. Compared to writing your own documentation, you can potentially save hundreds of work hours and the associated cost of lost productivity. For your internal staff to generate comparable documentation, it would take them an estimated 400 plus internal staff work hours, which equates to a cost of approximately $38,500 in staff-related expenses. That is about 1 to 3 months of development time, where your staff would be diverted from operational duties. If you hire a consultant to generate this documentation, it would take them an estimated 300 plus consultant work hours, which equates to a cost of approximately $96,000. That is about 1 to 2 months of development time for a contractor to provide you with the deliverable. The product is built to be evaluated before purchase. The PDF example on the page shows representative content from the SAQ documentation, including the mapped policy structure, the third-party service provider management policy, and the standards format used throughout the product. Coverage spans the PCI DSS version 4.0 requirements specifically applicable to your SAQ type, with cross-references to NIST 853, the NIST CSF, ISO 27002, and the Secure Controls Framework, where the merchant has obligations beyond PCI DSS. So how much work is left for you? ComplianceForge aims for approximately a 90% solution because it is impossible to write a 100% cookie-cutter document that can be equally applied across every merchant. Merchants completing the same SAQ share many common requirements, but the specific third-party service providers, payment channels, and acquiring relationships vary. So the remaining work is fine-tuning the documentation with the specific information that only the merchant knows. In practice, customization is filling in the blanks, adding the company name and logo, naming the specific PCI DSS validated third-party service providers you use, completing the third-party responsibility matrix with the agreed split of PCI DSS responsibilities, identifying the security awareness training cadence, and integrating the SAQ policies with any existing merchant security program documentation. If you want a hand, ComplianceForge offers optional professional services. They are not required to customize ComplianceForge documentation. The 5-hour bundle may be beneficial for companies that need some guidance on getting started with how to tailor their documentation. The 10-hour bundle is for companies that need additional guidance on tailoring their documentation to meet their compliance requirements. And the 20-hour bundle is for companies that need robust services beyond just 10 hours to assist in tailoring their documentation. Purchased professional service hours expire 120 days, or 4 months, from the time of purchase if unused. Hours are intended to supplement, not replace, your own customization work. There are more reasons to buy. The PCI DSS Cybersecurity Policies and Standards can serve as a foundational element in your organization's cybersecurity program for PCI DSS compliance. It can stand alone or be paired with other specialized products ComplianceForge offers. One of the most important points to remember when it comes to compliance is that if you cannot prove you are compliant with documented policies and standards, then your business will be unlikely to count on business insurance to cover the expense of a breach. This product contains the policies, standards, and documentation you need to comply with PCI DSS version 4.0. The benefits are straightforward. Documented security policies and standards are mandatory if you accept credit or debit cards. This product is easy to implement and affordable for any business size. It provides complete PCI DSS version 4.0 coverage, developed by experts with PCI DSS experience. It is editable in Microsoft Word format. It has a quick turnaround with email delivery within 1 business day, and it comes with supplemental forms to ease implementation. This is how PCI DSS cybersecurity documentation is meant to be structured. ComplianceForge provides businesses with exactly what they need to protect themselves: professionally written policies, procedures, standards, and guidelines at a very affordable cost. If you have any questions, please email support@complianceforge.com or call 1-307-241-8740. We've been helping organizations since 2005, and we are always happy to help.